Hey, how's it going? In this video, we're going to talk about how managers choose who to lay off. How do I know what I'm talking about? Well, I've been an engineering leader for about 6 to 7 years. Let's begin. It's been a hell of a week. We got Elon Musk taking over Twitter, immediately laying off about 3,700 people, or about a 50% reduction in force, among a bunch of other things that he's been doing. The whole thing is a complete clusterfuck of a mess, but we'll talk about that in a different video. Stripe laying off about 1,000 people, or about a 14% reduction in force. And apparently, compared to Twitter, people are saying that they actually did pretty well. Like, it was pretty classy of what they did, if that's even a way to consider it. And most recently, Meta, with an about 13% reduction in force, or a staggering 11,000 people. Like, I did not know they had so many people in the company. All these layoffs, the number one question that everybody wants to know is, how do they choose who to remove? First, let's talk about the role of a manager, since a lot of people might not understand what they're supposed to do. Basically, when you become a manager, much like when you were an individual contributor, you are measured on directly what you build. As a software engineer, what you build is the product, and this is what changes when you become a manager. When you become a manager, what you build is the team that builds the product. Any good manager will try to build and grow a team that can build a product as quickly as possible in as high a quality as possible. Part of the job is figuring out what is missing from your team, or who is not good for the team. Most managers will already have a list of people that they absolutely want to keep and a list of people that they absolutely want to get rid of. So keep this in mind, and let's jump to what everyone is thinking. Getting the obvious question out of the way, do companies use layoffs to remove underperforming people? 100%. Very much, yes. The usual messaging that companies give to the public and to the people that they lay off is that this is a purely financial situation. There is a market downturn, or the company's not doing well, and it has nothing to do with your performance. They say this so that they can get out of any performance-based lawsuits that people might want to come back to them for. If you put yourself in the shoes of the business, does it really make sense to get rid of people who are actually good? Like, if you say you want to get rid of 10% of your workforce, are you just going to roll the dice and then pick a random 10% out of the people that you have? No, it doesn't make sense to do so. So definitely the ones who are not performing well, or the ones who are causing trouble, they're the ones who are removed first. But this isn't the full picture. Sometimes very knowledgeable and experienced people are also laid off. They might seem like they have all the answers and, are definitely safe, but in truth might not be able to meet the expectations of the company for their particular role. And we'll get into this in a bit. First, let's talk about how these decisions are made. I did do a TikTok series on the process, so if you're interested in that, I'll put the links in the description. But in a nutshell, some C-level or exec will come to you and say, hey, we're laying off X% of people. Give me a list of names. So now senior managers and above will have to do some deep thinking, and then they'll go into a room and negotiate who should be on this list. It does get a little bit heated, especially if one manager doesn't want to lose more people on their team than another manager, especially if they hate each other, because a lot of the times one team might get hit harder than another team. There are a few cases that will happen here. As mentioned before, part of a manager's job is to build a team. Most managers should already have a list of people that they want to get rid of. This creates two scenarios. The first scenario is the number of names that they have to give is the same or less than the number that they already want to get rid of. This situation is easy. They just dip into the people that they already want to get rid of. In scenario number two, the number of names they need to give is more than the number of people that they want to get rid of. This makes things hard because they actually have to do something that they're not prepared to do. You end up having a list like this. At the top are people that are obvious keepers. At the bottom are people that are obvious removals. And this section in the middle are the people that you have to think really hard about. And unfortunately, some of these people might not have done anything wrong. They just might not be a very good fit for the team. But basically, you start off with the obvious keepers and removals. I'll try to simplify this in a 2x2 grid. First, you have high performers and underperformers, and then you have the ones who are easy to work with, or the ones who cause trouble. Definitely an oversimplification, but hopefully it kind of gives you an idea of how assessments are made. If you are a high performer and you're easy to work with, you are an obvious keeper. These are people who adapt well to many situations, work well with everyone, and can pretty much get redistributed to any other projects quite easily. If you are an underperformer and you cause trouble, you're an obvious removal. And causing trouble can be anything from disrupting the team too much by, tempting people to slack off, the ones who are always asking their friends to go get coffee or something like that, or the ones that are hard to work with. Say you don't compromise on anything and everything kind of has to be your way, or you're hard to communicate with, or something that surprises a lot of people. Maybe you actually care about the project, but you care so much that you pigeonhole yourself and you overcomplicate everything and you slow down the project. Think about the people that always say, what about this? What about that? And they keep bringing up things that are clearly not important for the current phase of the project. So this leaves two groups. The underperformers who are easy to work with. We're talking about the super friendly, super pleasant people who you would totally be friends with. They just, brighten up your day when you're there at work, but they're just not good at their jobs. Like, you wonder how they even passed the interview. And then you got the high performers who are not easy to work with, but they do their job well and push the project forward like incredibly quickly as well. We're talking about those toxic senior engineers that have some sort of God complex, but they're just damn good at their jobs and they have a lot of institutional knowledge. For underperformers who are easy to work with, it depends on a couple of factors. Do they have domain knowledge that nobody else has? Maybe you don't want to risk losing this knowledge. Do they push the project forward in some other way? Maybe their technical skills are pretty much non-existent and they shouldn't be an engineer at all, but they're actually pretty good at project management, or they spread information really well, or they can do a lot of mundane or manual or operational work. Do they bring up the morale of the team and generally make things enjoyable at work? Kind of like a multiplier effect, even though they add pretty much zero to the actual technical efforts, but they just kind of make you want to show up to work. So you kind of get it now, right? If you're always for the company or always for the team, you have a chance of remaining. It's not 100%. It really depends on if your manager has your back and is willing to fight for you. For high performers who cause trouble, it also depends on a couple of factors. How toxic are you? Like, do people actively avoid working with you? Like, they don't even want to talk to you and they would rather do a shitty part of the project than to be anywhere near the area that you're working on? Or are you kind of annoying, but, tolerable? Is there a project that you can get redistributed to, which is a little bit out of the way, where you can kind of work on a smaller team or do a bit of more R&D type of work? This is pretty hard in a tech recession since R&D projects are probably the first to get canceled. Are you pretty much just for yourself? Like, the decisions that you try to push onto the team are only based on your own interests? Like, if it's a decision to choose a technology that you don't like and the team makes that decision and you just don't want to cooperate at all, like, it has to be something that you're interested in? Or are you trying to change the process for the entire team that only benefits you and your quality of life at work? And the obvious, do you have domain expertise that nobody else has, such that if your knowledge is lost, it'll completely cripple the project? If you have that, you're usually pretty safe. Hopefully this kind of paints the picture. If you're smart and you're good at your job and you get your work done, it might not entirely save you. It also depends on how many people and who hates you, especially if the people who hate you are manager and above. If your manager likes you, or other managers like you, or other execs and leaders like you for whatever reason, you got a good chance of being safe. So the lesson here is that regardless of which group you are in, you probably should play some politics and you got to get as many decision makers on your side as possible. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to make the decision and could be the ones who can kind of give you that little push to keep you on the safe side of the fence. Oh, and you actually have a completely different category that is actually based on a financial decision. And these are high risk projects that might take too long to produce results. Like, you got to weather the recession. So there really isn't time to kind of push towards a long project, or high expense projects that have a pretty low return on investments based on, I don't know, market research and market trends and total addressable market. You might get laid off if you're on one of these projects and they get canceled. Sometimes if the company is big enough and these projects are getting canned and everybody up the chain is getting laid off, including the exec that's responsible for the project, everybody goes. Just like that, because no one has any knowledge of who should stay and who should go. So the easy decision is just to lay everybody off. If no one's there to fight for you or the department, then you're a pretty easy target. And then you have crazy things like Elon Musk purchasing Twitter for $44 billion and then going in and steamrolling everything right out of the gate. Big mess, no time to plan, no time to evaluate properly, just do or die, give a list by the end of the day or you're getting fired too. This kind of scenario seems pretty impossible, but as you can see, it's playing out right in front of us. Anyway, hope that was informative, kind of speed ran through everything and touched on the surface only. Happy to answer any questions if you give me some comments below. Also happy to answer any more questions in a separate video and provide more details. But otherwise, if you like my insights into the tech industry, give me a like and subscribe. Hang in there, things will definitely turn out okay. Good luck. I'll see you in the next one.